All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Powers. I've got a couple interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I want to talk about here is this young up-and-coming bodybuilder by the name of Nick Walker. Now, Nick is only 24 years old, and he just competed this past weekend in the South Jersey Championships, where he won the overall title at that show. And a lot of people have been sending me screenshots and pictures of him from this show, just talking about the incredible potential that they think he has and how good his physique is at such a young age. And I really do agree with that sentiment. I mean, at 24 years old, this guy does have an insane amount of muscle maturity and muscular development. And really the main thing that stands out to me is that kind of genetic roundness that he has to his arms and his delts. In particular, this photo here that you're looking at of this most muscular with the hands clasped in the front, that to me looks very reminiscent of like a Phil Heath or a Kevin Levrone. Those crazy round shoulders, crazy round triceps, crazy round biceps, those super overdeveloped forearms. And it's really one of those qualities that it doesn't really matter how hard you train for. It's just one of those things you either genetically have that roundness or you don't. And this guy has it. And again, he's only 24 years old, so he's showing a tremendous amount of potential as a bodybuilder. Now, a lot of people that were sending me these photos were saying to, kind of give my opinion on how he would place at the Olympia or how he would look next to IFBB pros, or just compare him to certain IFBB pros. Now, I think some of those requests are a little bit premature. While this guy does have an incredible physique, he is not an IFBB pro. The show that he won was an amateur show, and he did not win his pro card there. So we're not even talking about an IFBB pro here yet. So I think it's a little bit premature to be talking about how he would place at the Olympia or how he would look next to certain top Olympians on stage. But I do agree he has a tremendous amount of potential for 24 years old. And really the only criticism that I would have for him based on the photos that I saw of this show would be his conditioning could be much better. He does have great shape. He does have great structure. He has a lot of muscle mass for his age. But overall, I think the conditioning could use a lot of work just based on what I've seen from this show so far. Do I think this guy could turn pro? Absolutely. Do I think he could do very well as a pro? Absolutely. But I do think it's going to take some time, and some more years of competing and really nailing down that conditioning to really be a successful pro. But do I think he could get a pro card? Absolutely. And I do think it's pretty impressive, the physique that he has for how young he is. I mean, I'm 26 years old, and I consider myself to be pretty young. This guy's 2 years younger than me, probably twice my size. So I am pretty impressed. I wanted to share this guy with you because I think in the future, this is going to be a guy that we need to be looking out for. This is going to be a guy that's going to be dangerous in the future, probably going to be a pro at some point in the future. And yes, probably do some damage in some pro lineups in the future. Now, the next story that I have for you guys today, I want to defend my boy Joseph Baena here for a second. This is Arnold Schwarzenegger's son, the one that is pursuing bodybuilding, specifically classic physique. Now, this past weekend, Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughter, Catherine Schwarzenegger, got married to Chris Pratt. He starred in Jurassic World, the Avengers movies, big movie star, big actor. So yeah, the wedding's a big story. The wedding was this past weekend. You got Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughter marrying a big movie star. Of course, a lot of mainstream news outlets are going to cover this. But one thing that I really didn't like and that I found to be very, very distasteful about the way they covered this wedding is rather than specifically just saying, congratulations or just reporting on the wedding, almost every news outlet that I saw tried to put a spin on it, a negative spin, towards Joseph. And all the headlines aren't about the wedding itself. The headlines are like, Arnold Schwarzenegger's love child not invited to his daughter's wedding. And these, they do him so dirty in these articles. And I just wanted to defend him for a second because I was reading some of these articles, specifically the one here from Fox News. And when I was reading the article, they don't even know that he wasn't invited to the wedding. They just know that he wasn't there. The first sentence in this article is, despite not being present. And then next to that, they have impossibly not invited to. So they made this headline just on the assumption that he wasn't invited. They don't even know. And all these different news outlets are making the assumption that he wasn't invited. And they're making that the whole story. So let's not even take into consideration how he might feel if he wasn't invited or the fact that his feelings might be hurt. Let's go ahead and make this a national news article on pretty much every mainstream news publication about this wedding, just putting him on blast for not being there. And then here's the kicker. I was reading the rest of this Fox News article, and here's how dirty they do him in this article. They go on to say, Joseph, a budding bodybuilder who greatly resembles his father, follows Catherine and her siblings Christopher and Patrick Schwarzenegger on Instagram, but none of them follow him back. Like, why would they put that in the article? They're just trying to do him dirty here, and I thought it was ridiculous. So I just wanted to take a second to use my platform to defend Joseph for a second, and just kind of point out how dirty these other outlets are doing him. Because in my experience, Joseph is a really nice guy. The few conversations that I've had with him have been really positive. After I did the commentary for the Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio, he even sent me a message saying that he watched it and that he thought I did a good job, and that really meant a lot to me. So when I saw these articles, it really made me feel bad the way they were just doing him dirty in these articles, man. So I wanted to defend him here. Joseph, I've got your back, bro. All right, so the next story that I have for you guys today. A couple days ago, we talked about Hidetada Yamagishi making a comeback of sorts at this past weekend's Dallas Europa Super Show, where he competed at the 212 Showdown. As you guys probably already know, he used to be a men's open bodybuilding competitor and is now competing in the 212 division. And in recent years, he's been kind of hit or miss with the package that he's brought to the 212 stage. But at this particular show, he was 1,000% on, possibly the best conditioning he's ever brought in his career. And when we reported on that story 2 days ago, we had reported on what we saw at the prejudging and how good he looked in those comparison photos and in his individual routine at the prejudging. And when we made that video, we didn't know yet if he had won. And he did, in fact, end up winning that Dallas Europa 212 Showdown, defeating Mahmoud Aldura, who took second, and Santi Aragon, who took third. Now, following this victory, a lot of people are messaging me asking if I thought that Hidetada could win the 212 Olympia with the absence of Flex Lewis in 2019. And that brings me into my next story here. Now, I do think Hidetada looked fantastic at this Dallas Europa Super Show, but the guy that I think is going to be the most promising 212 bodybuilder and probably the next 212 Mr. Olympia winner is Derek Lunsford. I think that Derek Lunsford is really one of the most promising 212 bodybuilders in the division, and he is my pick to be the next 212 Mr. Olympia, assuming he brings the conditioning that he needs to bring to win that Olympia. I think he is going to be the heir to Flex Lewis's throne. He's got really everything he needs from a physique standpoint to win that 212 Olympia. Now, he recently did a guest posing this past weekend, actually, just a day ago, and that is the video you're watching right here. Now, I think the one weak point that Derek has is he could add some size to his legs, but other than that, from an upper body standpoint, having a small waist, V-taper, very complete physique, I think Derek Lunsford has all the makings of the next 212 Mr. Olympia champion. And I think even with Hidetada being in insane condition like he was at the Dallas show, even if he brought that conditioning to the Olympia, I think Derek Lunsford would be nearly impossible for a guy like Hidetada to beat. And I think Derek Lunsford is really the next in line to win that Olympia. Now, the final story that I have for you guys today is the most recent confrontation between Kenny Ko and Brad Castleberry. Now, I believe there's been about 4 separate occasions where they confronted each other at these expos now, and this is the most recent. And in this confrontation, it's a lot friendlier than the other ones. That's the first thing that I noticed right off the bat. Kenny Ko had a much different approach to this one. But in this particular confrontation, and it was much friendlier, and there was a much better conversation, Kenny Ko puts the offer on the table to have a charity boxing match with Brad Castleberry. And Brad Castleberry actually accepts this charity boxing match, and he said he's down for whatever, and he actually says he'd be more down for it to be more of a mixed martial arts type of thing where there's actually some grappling or wrestling involved, which I think would be advantageous for him because obviously Kenny Ko is going to have some reach on him. So I was actually pleasantly surprised that he accepted Kenny Ko's challenge. Now the question to you guys is, will he actually follow through with this charity boxing match? I'm going to go out on a crazy limb here and say he's not going to have anything to do with it, and we're never going to see this happen. Just based on his track record in the past, I don't think we're ever going to see Brad Castleberry and Kenny Ko in a boxing ring. I think it's just not going to happen. I think he accepts any call-outs that he's faced with in person, and then as soon as he's away from that person, that call-out is not happening. So that wraps it up for the video today, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. Please give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Please subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed already. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Nick Strength and Power. signing out.